Hey, listen, I'd like to finish on a lighter note, or
Sure.
just a. Well, I mean, it's a lighter note for me. Maybe it's not for you. So, I mean, I just have this question. So, I'm gonna define very as good as I can. I'm gonna defy scrying to people.
Okay. Sure.
So, I'm not what goes on, but like just. So, scrying basically is the practice of staring into, or I mean, at least generally, I guess, and you'll correct me afterwards, staring into a reflective surface, usually in the dark, usually obsidian, which is I don't think it's a stone, right? It's a.
It is a stone. Yeah, it's an igneous.
Isn't it a volcanic
igneous
glass? I thought it was volcanic glass.
Yeah, yeah, it's volcanic glass.
Anyways, it's a black stone, so you can use that, or a black mirror, and then to stare in this reflective object until images or entities or appear. Okay, so far so good.
So far so good. Yep.
All right. So the question, Douglas, if you're comfortable talking about this,
Sure.
what happened when you tried scrying using the reflective surface of your iPad?
Oh man, yeah, it was. People like this story. So I was visiting. My mother lived.
Have you told
in,
this story before? I'm sorry, because you mentioned it on your Patreon on this thing about scrying.
I talked about it very briefly on my Greek magical papyri episode, but I've actually talked about it on some other people's podcasts. But I'd love to answer it again. So,
cool.
Just for people, like Charlie Brooker came up with this TV show by the name of Black Mirror. And a lot of people really like that show. He's a very astute gentleman, because he's basically saying that a lot of us are doing sorcery now by staring into the black surfaces of our phones and our iPads and our televisions and everything. They are infinite depth mirrors when not pumping images into our eyeballs. You turn them off and you will be staring into what we would call a scrying mirror. So that's for something for people to sit into, like is the show Black Mirror showing us glimpses of our future. And anyhow, I'm a fan of the first 2 seasons of the show. I haven't seen anything since then, since I think Charlie was kicked off. But I was in Mexico. My mother used to live down there. I love visiting Mexico. Mexico's a very magical place. Like there's just places that you can go and you're like, man, there's a spiritual something that exists in this place. And central Mexico to me is one of the most like, holy crap. I can taste it. Like it's palpable here. There's lots of stores that sell really crazy candles and sell apothecary supplies. And I love it. I truly do. But I worked out a series of timings for a certain ritual I was doing. And I can't go into what the actual specifics of the ritual were itself, but it required at a period of time I was to try and get an answer via scrying. This entity would have been, at the time it would have been Hermanubis, which is this combination of a jackal, Anubis, ancient Egyptian god, and Hermes, Greek god that was very popular in Alexandria through that period of time that I talked about from the Greek magical papyri from earlier. Anyhow, I believe they had a temple in Alexandria. Anyways, I wanted to scry, but I didn't have any kind of like a scrying instrument. So I was just like, well, I'll just use my iPad. And I had a first generation iPad. Like first generation iPads, they couldn't do very much. They were really, really shoddy. But I was like, I'll just do what I normally do for scrying. And I'm not a great scryer. I'm just not very good at it. But I was going to give it a shot. So I did all the things. I had incense. My mom and she was out. I think she was doing something. So I was like, okay, the timing's good. I'll get everything. So I went to my room. My mother had my little room for me that I was staying in. Blacked out the curtains, did the candles, incense going. I was able to find frankincense and myrrh very easily. I was using that for scrying, and so I would use the I looked into my iPad, which is a black infinite depth mirror, to try and get something happening. Nothing really happened. Normally when people start scrying, this did happen this time though. There's like a weird, and some people can get it immediately, and some people it takes a little bit of time. And a lot of times it has to do with the lighting in the room. You'll see this like gray smoke, this really weird. And when it happens, you're like, holy crap, this is really cool. And it'll start to appear within the surface of the glass. And so that did happen. But I was in that room for like an hour and 10 minutes. And besides the gray smoke, nothing else really happened. So I just kind of like closed everything down and was like, shucks. Didn't get an audience with Hermanubis, or Hermanubis didn't want to tell me anything. What happened over, because I was down there for 3 weeks. I used to visit my mom for large periods of time because I really enjoyed where she lived in Mexico. About 2 days afterwards, some very bizarre stuff started happening. Electronics started just turning on and off, like not just like turn on and then just stay on and then we turn it off. It would be like turn on and then it would turn off, and it would turn on and then it would turn off. The television started going on and off. It's like just very bizarre stuff. My mother's electric toothbrush, it was so bizarre. Her electric toothbrush turned on while it was on its stand, which it isn't supposed to do. It's just a lot of weird electrical things started, like things that involved technology. I use technology to scry with like the iPad, and just weird electronic stuff started happening to the point where somebody who was staying with us, just like, because it was happening so often, it was happening every 2 or 3 hours, something weird would happen and would turn on and it would turn off. The furnace would turn off for some strange reason. Anyhow, I'm making a big thing of this, but this person that was staying with us is like, what is going on in here? Is there like a poltergeist or something? And I was like, okay. So they, what happened is they went for dinner, and I kind of said I didn't feel good. I was just like, oh, my tummy must have been something I ate earlier. So they went out for dinner, and I took some Palo Santo, and I just did like a Ciprianic exorcism of the entire place. I was just like, sorry, whatever it was that decided to come through, if anything did decide to, unless I was just going crazy. But it was like, it was after scrying with the iPad and the 2 days after, that was like the most specific event of one kind of poltergeist activity occurring. And it seemed to only occur through electronic devices, of them just turning on and off. The coffee machine, like a coffee grinder, like just turning on without.
That's spooky. I mean, the sound, like, whoa.
Right?
Anyways,
That happened in the, anyways, it was just like these things weren't on timers. Like there's no, I've tried to find rational explanations for it. But anyways, I did a Ciprianic kind of like exorcism for the entire place. Palo Santo just everywhere. Some holy water I was able to get from a church. Because when you go to Mexico, it's all Catholic churches. They have little basins of holy water. I just took some holy water into a little flask and did a whole thing to my mom's place, and nothing happened afterwards. But yeah, I haven't scryed on an iPad since. I don't recommend it. Just from my experience, who knows? Your mileage might vary, but yeah, I'm just gonna say, like, there is something to think with, though. This is definitely something to think of, and I don't think there's a conspiracy here. But your phone, when it is off, is a black infinite depth mirror. There is some strange stuff that's happening to us now via technology and influences. I wonder what is truly going on, and if it's just one thing or if it's a lot of stuff. But in my experience, so I didn't have an obsidian mirror. The closest thing I had was a very old, shitty first generation iPad that I only used for reading books because that's all it could do. And then I tried to use it. I set it up on like a little stand and I tried to look into it, and a little bit of smoke, but then afterwards something was like not happy with me. And,
sounds very archonic, this idea of archons manifesting through technology and stuff like this. I don't know.